Good evening and welcome to Newsmax Prime. I'm J.D. Hayworth. The Granite State was great to both Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump, but it marked the end of the line for Christie and Carly Fiorina. We'll address those storylines and more a bit later. Of prime interest tonight, Marco Rubio's foxhole. Did Fox News spin things in favor of Rubio, even as the numbers revealed a very different story? Miranda Kahn has more.
Some political pundits say that Marco Rubio may not be the only big loser Tuesday night, and Fox News may be wiping some egg off its face for promoting the junior senator, only to find him come in fifth place.
But every time I watch Fox, I am appalled at the level of bias of that station in favor of Marco Rubio. And the harder sell it becomes, the more unusual it is that they're pushing it like that.
That was political strategist Dick Morris during Newsmax TV's live coverage of the New Hampshire primaries. Morris, a frequent past Fox commentator, has appeared on that network more than 2,100 times. Just think back to the last Fox News debate. Breitbart recently pointed out the 5 basic questions Megyn Kelly forgot to ask Marco Rubio.
One of your competitors took a shot at you today, Governor Christie, who is really hoping to perform better in New Hampshire than he did in Iowa. Here's what he had to say about you coming to New Hampshire and your performance. Listen.
I'm not the boy in the bubble, okay? We know who the boy in the bubble is up here.
Do you take offense to that, sir, him calling you a boy in a bubble? He says you're too scripted. Line. I'm not in this. You are very smooth. Your acceptance, not acceptance, but your remarks last night were amazing. You were so articulate. There was no teleprompter. To those who say, oh, he's scripted, is that scripted or is that just how you talk? So now that you're, we got the Marco momentum, as they call it, you know who's going to come after you, both guns blazing. His name starts with D and his last name starts with T, and you're going to be right in the middle of the crosshairs for him now that you're giving him a run for his money. How are you going to handle Donald Trump's attacks on you?
Also, the National Journal recently shined a light on Rubio's close ties with Fox pollster Frank Luntz. Writing this, Frank Luntz plays favorites with Marco Rubio. The GOP focus group leader made big bucks building the candidate's image in Florida a decade ago. What they probably don't know about is Luntz's close relationship with Rubio over the years, and how Rubio paid Luntz's firm $250,000 to produce and promote a book that Rubio used to improve his statewide name recognition in Florida a decade ago. And here's a comment that we received about our coverage last night. This one comes from Lynn in Clinton, Washington. I have never watched your live feed before, but you guys are great. Loved the Dick Morris commentary, dropping the bomb about Fox being not so fair and balanced and pushing Rubio. Keep up the good work because you guys are fair and balanced. And we'd love to hear from you. Reach out to us at newsmaxtv.com/comments.
Thanks, Miranda. For more on the story, we're once again joined here on the anchor desk by Newsmax TV political analyst and presidential strategist Dick Morris. Dick, of course, the co-author of Power Grab, Obama's dangerous plan for a one-party nation. And also joining us from Newsmax Washington, the White House correspondent for National Journal, S.V. Date. Shirish wrote the article that appeared in the National Journal concerning the Luntz-Rubio connection. Our thanks to you both here on Newsmax Prime tonight. Shirish, first to you. You outlined the relationship that existed between Rubio and Luntz, and that is something of real concern. Look, Frank Luntz, when I was in the House, he would come by with the focus groups, but it's one thing to have a legal relationship. It's the failure to disclose it. Isn't that what really the problem is for both Luntz and Rubio, if not for Fox as well?
Yeah, that's an excellent point. I'm not really sure if it's Marco Rubio's job to explain the connection here, but it seems like Fox News ought to have mentioned that. I used to be a Capitol bureau chief down in Florida, in Tallahassee, and I saw the book that Speaker Rubio then put out, and I knew that Frank Luntz was helping him with it. What folks probably in the rest of the country don't realize is that is what made Rubio a statewide figure. I mean, without that, he was just a guy who'd run for a single House seat in Florida, and there's 120 of those. So Frank Luntz was really behind the rise of Marco Rubio in Florida.
Dick Morris, when we are on together here, we talk about our different relationships. Heck, I even have Zuhdi Jasser on here as my personal physician. I point that out, although it may not be consequential to the story. Was there an error of omission in this case as outlined by Shirish?
Oh, I don't think it was omission. It was an error of commission. What the hell are they doing having a focus group leader who used to be on the payroll of one of the candidates he's focus grouping? That's absurd. It's one thing to have a pollster who has a relationship, because you got to figure the pollster is not going to phony the figures or weight the data and destroy his reputation, because that's pretty objective. But a focus group is putty in the hands of the director of the group, and he can get them to say anything he wants. And I was so surprised when Luntz came on with that, because I didn't think Rubio had done particularly well. And I think I have always had a high regard for Frank, and I thought that always look forward to his focus groups, because they're the best indication as to what really went on. And then he says, okay, how many think Rubio won the debate? And I don't think they all stuck up their hands, but the camera angle made it look like all. And then he goes on and on about Rubio, and I said, where did that come from? And then when Shirish wrote that article, I had an aha moment.
Well, let's go more into the aha moment with Shirish at Newsmax Washington. The basic thought on this, real money, Dick, $345,451 that went to the Luntz companies from Rubio and the Republican Party of Florida when he was in charge of that. So it ain't chicken feed we're talking about here.
There are so many conflicts that go back and forth and back and forth. Roger Ailes was the main consultant to Bush 41, and Fox has always had a bias in favor of Bush constantly, and that presumably was still at work here, although Bush fell apart early. Murdoch has always, the owner, Rupert Murdoch, has always tended to use his publications or his companies to promote his agenda, but until now he's not done that with Fox News. I was on Fox News from 1997 to 2013, and in that whole time, nobody ever asked me to push anything, oppose anything, nobody ever screened what I said. And now, all of a sudden, every one of the Fox anchors is doing Rubio, Rubio, Rubio. And you kind of scratch your head and you say, what is going on here?
Let me return to Shirish, rejoining us from Newsmax Washington. Shirish, this is real money, over $345,000. Now, it was documented that that period, basically 2 years, 2005 to 2007, the payment went from the Republican Party of Florida to Luntz's consulting companies, but this was all to help then State Representative Marco Rubio?
That's right. Rubio, at that moment in 2005, he'd become the Speaker designate. In other words, he was going to become the House Speaker starting in 2007, or at the very end of 2006. So Speaker designates, and then also the speakers, they have tremendous amount of power. And the Republican Party of Florida gives them a lot of latitude on how to spend the money that the party as a whole is collecting.
In fact, Rubio lived off the state Republican credit card basically for 2 to 3 years.
Well, there were some concerns
and didn't
about
disclose and didn't attribute a lot of the stuff he spent on that card that was business, that was personal. Didn't disclose that until the newspaper story broke. There was an FBI investigation that exonerated him, or IRS, I'm not sure which.
And now, back to the here and now, and more conversations about what has been going on in terms of the Fox coverage and some of the speculation and some of the opinions. For example, Fox News analyst Charles Krauthammer last night used a powerful yet provocative analogy concerning what went on with Marco Rubio and Governor Chris Christie.
The one event in the debate, the hit that was put on Rubio by Christie, who incidentally appears not to have been helped. It was something like a suicide attack.
So you have that situation, and it's compounded by the CEO of the News Corporation, the big boss at Fox, Rupert Murdoch, doubling down on that analogy earlier today on Twitter. Mr. Murdoch writing, Chris Christie, suicide bomber, damages victim while blowing himself up. Dick, there's been a lot of talk, you cited it last night in our coverage, that it's believed that basically Rupert Murdoch is all behind Rubio.
Yeah, he doesn't get government money. It's a private entity. He can do whatever he wants with it. But when they promote themselves as fair and balanced, whereas in fact all they're doing is echoing what their boss is telling them to say, that's pretty outrageous. And as I said, when I was there at Fox, they didn't do that. And I think the big difference is that Roger Ailes has lost direct control of the station to Murdoch's family that got put in there. And now Murdoch is trying to play that game, like he always did with the New York Post.
Let me turn back to Shirish, waiting very patiently at Newsmax Washington. Shirish, you talked about your past in Florida in terms of chronicling what went on at the state capitol in Tallahassee. Do you believe Rubio's staff anticipated the problems he might have with the association with Luntz and just disregarded it?
Oh, I don't think they, on the Rubio side of it, I don't think they saw that a problem at all. I mean, they hired Luntz to do a very specific thing, which was help shape his image and get this book out there and have these 100 ideas to help Florida, and that all worked fine. Now, did they know that Frank Luntz was going to end up being the pollster who did the focus group? Maybe they did, maybe they didn't. But I'm not sure that that's Senator Rubio's responsibility to do that.
Is the onus on Luntz, in your opinion, SV?
Well, as a journalist, I think I would have done that. I don't know what the rules of engagement are for pollsters, but I think in the interest of disclosure, I don't know how it would have hurt to mention that, at least.
The old saying was, when in doubt, leave it out. But Dick Morris, in terms of politics, when in doubt, mention it. And I would be remiss if I did not mention that we thank you both for being here tonight to lead off. This is a story that, pardon the pun, bears watching. So you heard what these two gentlemen had to say. We're interested on your comments on this entire episode. Send your comments to me at newsmaxtv.com/comments. We'll be right back.